The following program is rated S for satire. We are not professionals, nor are we clinically depressed. We do, however, suffer from long bouts of indecision and stagnation. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Take That Depression. I'm Kyler, that's Spencer,
Ya boy.
and this week we're going to talk about how we learn. There are many ways that we learn. However, the 4 that we cover in school that everybody knows is visual, auditory, reading or writing, and kinesthetic or hands-on learning. Those are the 4 primary ways of learning. Then we are going to cover some secondary types of learning. And we have a couple tertiary types of learning that we're going to cover this week too. First off, and feel free to jump in if you have any questions. First off, based on the VARC model, the primary modes of learning, the first one is visual. These tend to be people that learn with graphics or posters. They tend to watch videos or someone else doing a thing. They may draw pictures where they don't have any while they're listening to a lecture or just reading a book. They may draw pictures to bridge gaps between different concepts. The next is auditory. Auditory learners tend to learn by hearing, either through songs, audiobooks, even podcasts. I tend to listen to a lot of podcasts about hobbies that I'm interested in, and that is how I do a lot of my pre-learning learning. Group discussions are another way that auditory people learn. Auditory people are, in general, less likely to take notes than most other learning styles, and they're more likely to fidget because they're not really doing anything with their hands. All of their information intaking is just done with their brain. They don't have to look at anything, they just kind of have to exist. The third style is reading and writing. These people you'll see them in college classes. They take a lot of notes, or they'll be reading books constantly. These people may write things down over and over again. They're the people that tell you, take notes and then go home and rewrite your notes to learn. I am not a very good reading, writing learner.
Yeah, I've never been a very good note taker. By the time they tell me what I'm writing, it's 3 pages away, and then I'm like, stop! I haven't finished yet.
Yes, it's tricky to get to that point if you're not that kind of a learner. You really have to train yourself, and I'm that same way. Not a note taker. By the time I finish the sentence, they're 3 paragraphs down the road. The 4th and final primary mode of learner, which vibes the most with me, is hands-on learning. These people learn by physically doing the thing with their body, or like building something. These will generally be the people that just jump right into things instead of kind of sitting back and doing research beforehand. Do you have any questions about the primary modes of learning that we've covered so far?
No.
Okay. Then we will jump straight into secondary modes of learning, of which there are 9 secondary modes of learning.
Having trouble mastering the first set. Now you're hitting me with 9 more.
Yes, I'm hitting you with 9 more. And these are secondary in the way that like I said, I'm a very hands-on learner. However, there's visual, hands-on, and auditory legs of the secondary types of learning. So before I start doing my hands-on, I tend to watch a lot of videos and intake a lot of podcasts as kind of my pre-learning. Before I actually try and do a thing, I'll try and gather as much information about it. And then when I do my actual learning, when I come to that mastery of information, that will be primarily all hands-on. So these secondary things you can kind of think of as a pre-learning learning or a minor thing to help you learn. The first 3 we've covered in the 4 main ones, so I won't cover them again, but they are visual, kinesthetic or hands-on, and auditory. Then we move on to the 4th of 9, which is stress learning. These people tend to learn in stressful situations when they're feeling stressed, or they tend to learn really quickly what stresses them out. These people are procrastinators or sink or swim learners. The more stressful the situation is, the more engaged that these people will be with the materials. They also can benefit from setting specific deadlines for themselves so that they can make the situation maybe more stressful than it actually is. It's a false sense of stress to help them learn a little bit. I tend to learn somewhat from this, I'm sure we can all kind of identify with some level of procrastination. The fifth secondary learning technique is ease. These are kind of the opposite of stress learners. They learn in their own time. They learn as they're doing other things. They passively take in the information. May even be stuff that's on in the background while they're relaxing or just existing. They'll take in the information, and that's how they'll learn things. This style of learning may increase the time it takes you to learn something, but that doesn't make it any worse than any of the other ones. It's just something to be aware of, and it may help you narrow your learning to make it quicker. If you know that it may take more time, then you get less frustrated with yourself, things like that. The sixth learning style is scribble, which may sound like reading writing. However, these people tend to turn audio information into visual graphs or charts or things while they're learning. So let's say you're learning about life cycles. While a lecturer is talking to you about that, or a video is talking to you about that, you may physically draw out the life cycle of whatever it is, and that's how you learn. The seventh secondary learning is trust, and this is a kind of two-pronged thing here. They try to gather as many trusted resources as possible. Some of them seek out professionals and experts in the subject to gather their information from, and then they will hold that information or advice higher than their own research. And on the other prong, it's the complete opposite. Someone may disregard what they're hearing a professional say because they trust their research more than those professionals. And I thought that was an interesting little tidbit, that trust is both sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more.
The eighth secondary learning style is teach. This is people who learn by providing the information to someone else. The explanation or demonstration of the information or process solidifies their own understanding of the materials, and that lends itself to being teachers also in group settings. This generally will happen. You'll find the people that are reaching out and trying to help people understand, and while they're doing that, you can also see them solidify their understanding. The final secondary learning technique is copy. This is see, then do. People who watch a demonstration and then imitate what's happening. This is generally less audio dependent. You can just see something happening and then you try and imitate it, as imitation is the main tool for the secondary learning strategy. An example of this is dancing or through sports. If you are watching your coach hit a baseball, that provides you with much more information, usable information, than him telling you how to swing a bat. This watching them allows you to see nuances or the steps involved that will give you a better understanding than their verbal explanation would.
Copying is definitely my secondary learning or main way of learning. You can give me a step-by-step handwritten. You could have written the book on the skill and be considered a master in that field, but it's going to go through one ear, out the other. But if I can watch you, show, tell, do is something that I've always been taught, and that's always been the best way to learn. You show someone, you tell them as you walk them through, and then they do the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up with see one, do one, teach one, and that's kind of the same thing. You watch one, then you do one, and then you teach one, and that shows your mastery of that knowledge if you can teach someone else.
I feel like it adds that level of muscle memory too. When you start actually doing it for yourself and copying, it becomes repetitive and sticks with you a little bit more.
In many cases, that also means that whoever you're learning from will also be there so they can catch mistakes as they're happening, versus you doing mistakes for so long and then finding out later that this one step you've been missing or doing wrong. So that also, I think, has a nice kind of pickup mechanic there for you.
Yep.
Then the final thing that we're here to talk about is tertiary learning. And these are the first two sections that we talked about are how you learn. The tertiary ones are kind of modifiers to that, in that the tertiary learnings are whether you learn best in a group or by yourself. Social learners may learn best by bouncing ideas off of other people or hearing as many sides of an argument or discussion as possible. And solitary learners may just like to intake the information for themselves, form their own perceptions before they bring it to the wider world. But all of those things together will form how you learn. And we would love to hear how you guys learn in the comments. For me, I'm definitely a kinesthetic primary learner that does a lot of visual auditory stuff, and I'm a solitary learner. I like to do all my learning away from people as possible. I'm an introvert, so I don't like kind of being hovered over. It is nice to have that person there that can correct you if you're doing something silly, but I like to try and do most of my learning by myself. So I'd be a kinesthetic primary, visual auditory secondary, solitary learner. And I think that once you kind of know that, you can kind of tailor your own learning strategies for yourself, and that will help you along the path of learning. And that's why we're doing this episode as a foundation to help you learn that, so then you can go ahead and do more efficient learning in the future. What do you think your learning type would be, Spencer?
My learning type is definitely the show, tell, do method. As I mentioned earlier, I kind of struggle with taking notes. I get stressed out real easily if I'm like not understanding something and it's being explained too fast or anything. I know when I try to learn anything, even when it comes to video games, when I learn, I'll hit all the YouTubes, all the different channels, all the different videos of things and see how they're doing it, and then I do try to imitate that. Definitely having a mentor there or someone to be able to correct those mistakes is very important, and sometimes that's not always available to you. I'm actually very excited for this particular podcast because I feel like it's something that I've been struggling with, is how to dive in, how to learn, and I honestly wasn't even aware of all these different types of learning, and that was kind of really cool to hear. I'm very excited for this one to drop so I can go back and listen to it and then apply it to my different skills and see what is actually the best way for me to learn a new skill.
Yeah, I agree. I went into this knowing the VARC model. I think we all kind of know the visual, auditory, reading, writing, or kinesthetic or hands-on. I did not know the secondary and tertiary types of learning. I had to source a lot of information from my wife, who has an education degree. She helped a lot with the research with this. However, when I started the research, I found the 9 types of secondary learning, and that really opened my eyes. I always was just a hands-on learner. I learn hands-on.
Yep.
And as soon as I found out that there was more to it, I really took a look into myself, and I tried to figure out exactly where I sat. And you can have any, all, none of the secondary types of learning, but knowing they're out there, I think, opens your eyes to more possibilities and a better understanding of how you learn.
I agree. That's a huge game changer, and up until this point, I had no idea that was even a thing. So knowing that this is out there now, it's something I think I can do a little research into myself and be like, what kind of learner am I? Let me dissect this and see. I might think I'm hands-on, but all of a sudden I do a little more research and suddenly I'm, a stress learner and scribble.
Yeah, I think that this is a cool tool for yourself if you're looking to really pinpoint where to focus your energy when you're learning.
I think that also secures the foundation too. The foundation for learning is how you learn. If you skip right over that, you might run into some problems down the road.
Yeah, that was part of the reason that I wanted to do this as the second episode, the first real episode that wasn't just covering what Take That Depression is. It definitely helps out. It will be a good scaffold for the rest of the whole podcast. That being said, we are going to move on to our next segment, the first edition of Skill Check, where Spencer and I talk to you guys a little bit about a skill that we've been learning about, and then provide you resources if it interests you to start learning that skill yourself. I can go first. This week will be about starting and editing a podcast. Before we started this, we had a long time of discussion to figure out exactly what content creation we were going to do. We chose a podcast, and then I started looking into it. So I have for you 3 YouTube videos. I have 2 of them that cover either how to start a podcast or how to use Spotify for creators, because that's what we are using to host this podcast. And I have a video linked down in the description of Audacity editing for beginners. All 3 of these videos really helped me along the process. The Spotify for creators and creating a podcast helped me understand exactly what would go into getting everything set up and ready to go. And the Audacity one was huge for me because I'd never worked in it, and it showed me all the tools in it to get set up to make editing faster. Also, me being a hands-on learner, I took in all that information, and then I learned a lot once I actually started doing things. When I was sitting down to edit the first episode, I was on Discord with Spencer, and he'd asked me how it's going, and I just started editing, so I said that it was going fine. It will be going great once I learn how to edit. And very quickly, probably 15-20 minutes later, I came back to Spencer and I was like, oh, I think I figured it out. It's getting fun. So it's for me, I can have all the information beforehand, those 3 videos that are linked down below. And I still need to do the hands-on learning. And I think that's something that shouldn't dissuade you from trying a new thing. It's been, again, a fun ride. And I am excited to continue going on this journey with you guys. However, that is my skill check for the week. Spencer, what do you have for us?
Full cards on the table. I actually don't have anything this week. I kind of got hit with the big sad being that time of year, and got a little busy with things, and then trying to narrow down what it is that I would actually like to show people. Again, that's one thing I struggle with. I'm a big dreamer, so I have 1,000 different things and trying to make it realistic on what I want to do. So this week I plan on doing some planning, and I will definitely have something next week on the episode on a skill that I'm ready to dive into. I do want to say that no one here is going to learn how to build a house from me. That's an important thing to get out there right away. I think my set of skills that I want to learn are a little bit different from Kyler's. I want to do more craft side of skills. I want to learn resin, epoxy. I want to learn perler beads. I want to learn how to make a skateboard lamp. Things like that. Things that I could maybe someday take to a market and sell. That's a huge goal and dream of mine. The idea of having something you created that someone somewhere wants. If I build a thing and someone's like, hey, I'll give you $1 for that, mission accomplished, success. Like, that's a cool concept to me. So those are the kind of skills that I would like to learn, is a little more on the crafty side. I unfortunately don't have anything this week, but next week we will narrow that down and figure out what that looks like.
That's fair. And that's also part of this podcast. There are weeks that we may not have anything. That's part of the thing. Let's take that depression. If we're busy or with winter coming up, the big sad hits us a little bit harder than usual, then we may not have something. However, we will have a main topic for every week. So definitely look forward to that. And unless you have anything else for us, Spencer?
I think that covers it.
Then I think we'll wrap this episode of Take That Depression. Again, look out for us Monday mornings, 2 a.m. Central, every week. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you just want to tell us, bad job, whatever, feel free to send us an email at takethatdepressionpod@gmail.com, all lowercase. Or if you're on Spotify, you can leave a comment there. Also, really, really good news. If you're listening to this on Spotify and you have a different preferred app, We are now on most of the places where you can get podcasts, so that's cool. Look out for us on Amazon or Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, leave us a rating on anything that you can, if you would like, if you're so moved to do. But until next week, stay safe out there.
Don't get mugged.